Well, we have seen a star-studded lineup at the 50th edition of International Film Festival of India. And one such glittering star today we have with us, Jonathan Meyers. Welcome DD News, sir, and welcome to 50th edition of International Film Festival.
You're so very kind, thank you.
Well, it's been 1994 till now. The latest one is Awake. It's more than 25, 30 years now in the world of entertainment. How do you look at this journey?
Well, it's the journey of a life, you know. I started in my teens, so to a certain extent I've been brought up in the film world, you know. I've had my education within the film world. I've had my entire life is lived on film sets, playing characters, dressing in other people's choice of clothing, you know. It's been a very, very strange existence.
When you decided that you want to work in the entertainment world, at what time? So quite early age, or it was something happened and then changed your mind and you...
Something happened. I was just, it happened organically. You know, when I was 15, a couple of situations arose that allowed me to sort of like do some auditions, and I thought, you know, I could make some money and travel. And so that was originally it. I didn't plan it to be sort of like an intense career, you know, because to be a filmmaker is not so much a job. I mean, sometimes it is, obviously, because it's work. But it becomes, after a while, the longer you stay in it, it becomes a vocation, you know? You feel compelled, you know, to perform.
Oh, but we've seen here that you've worked in television.
Yes.
You worked in cinema.
Yes.
We've also seen you doing as a modeling.
Yes.
On all this front, what do you think which is close to you?
Oh, well, certainly it's not modeling, obviously, because, you know, that's something that you sort of like do for, I don't know what reason really, because you like the clothes or you like the people who make them. But, you know, obviously filmmaking is filmmaking. Because of the progression in digitalization, people aren't making TV anymore. They're making home cinema. It's very different. When you have a 74-inch flat screen, that's not a TV anymore. That's a home cinema. So you can't make TV with the same sort of cheap production value and the blasé scripts and the sort of the sort of unarchitected depths of characters. You can't do that anymore. You have to give characters with depth.
Since 1994 now, until now, when you started the acting career, and we have seen that a transition period in the world of entertainment, because 90s is most important, the late 90s is most important. We have seen a technological changes also into it, a digital world entered into it.
Yeah.
How do you adopted this new technological changes, you know, in changing paradigm shift in the entertainment world? How you adopted that?
Well, for me being an actor, I don't have to adopt to the digitalization of anything. But I paid an awful lot of attention to the filmmakers that I worked with, especially the directors of photography, the cameramen, and the people on the set. So obviously it changed things immensely, because it became, with digital cards, it means you don't have to go through the process of checking the gauge, you don't have to change the reels, they don't get damaged. So it's a much easier, more compact way of making something. I don't like HD, high definition, because I think it takes away from the fabric of filmmaking.
That's old school thought, still you have that.
Yeah, well, there's a certain, well, you know, if you're shooting something on HD, then you have to grade the picture to bring the sort of like the depth of the perspective, the image perspective. And so, like, it's funny, if you watch, you know, I once watched a DVD copy of Ben-Hur, but I watched it on a HD television without the formula having been switched, and it was dreadful. It was dreadful. It looked like it was shot on a home video camcorder. The performances were flat, the lighting was pale, it was, you know, shadows everywhere. It was just not good.
We'll just move to the character now that you've played. We have seen you in a different character, of versatile characters. You don't hesitate to play a villain. You don't hesitate to play a psychopathic guerrilla fighter. What exactly, you know, when you adopted this kind of characters, do you feel any kind of a challenge? Do you see into it?
No, it's very different. As a young actor, You take every role you can because you just want to get ahead. So you want to fill up with your CV with as much experience as possible. When you get older, hopefully, if you have some successes, you get to make more discernible choices. But there's very few actors in the world. There's a few here, I'm sure, in India who have managed it, but most actors have to search and get the roles that they get. There's a few actors in the world who can choose what they want to do. They can pick up a novel and then ring up a producer and say, yes, I want to do this. I'm sure Leonardo DiCaprio could make any film he wanted to make. But that's rare, very rare. You know, certainly I've never attained that. There's very few people, there's very few actors anyway that live in that ether.
But are you not scared, or are you not frightened that this kind of character may have a different, impact on the image, the heroic image that you have? Have you never thought of it?
Oh, I don't have an image of myself at all, I never developed, I never nurtured like an image. I'm not a politician. So I don't need to be a public figure like that. I'm an actor. It's better for me to have no public image and no persona for me to be able to do my job properly. So yeah, I know a lot of people, and even actors that I've worked with, actors who weren't famous before I worked with and became famous after I worked with them. They were always concerned about sort of like how people viewed them, their image, and I never did. I thought I just had a different view of it, I don't enjoy being famous. Some people really do, really enjoy being famous. They get a lot of benefits from being famous. I don't think being famous is beneficial at all. I think it's certainly not been beneficial to me, so I don't enjoy it. So I'm not nurturing public love because it's so flippant. It's much more viable and much more guaranteed to court public fear than public love. You see this with politicians all over the world. They do this. Once you make your people afraid of you, it's much better than making them in love with you, because
Absolutely.
Love comes and love goes. They love you one day, they hate you the next day. But if they fear you, they fear you. So
that's true.
yeah. So and I don't think I was ever strong or cruel or malicious enough to make people fear me. So I didn't try to nurture them loving me either.
So what does Jonathan see when he gets a project, when he gets a script to do? What exactly do you see it at the first time?
Oh, I want to know who the director is now. I want somebody who's directed a film before. I'm not really too keen on working with first-time directors at the moment. I've had too many experiences where it doesn't work. And you see, the thing is, I'm an actor, and of course, because I've spent all of my adult life on a film set, obviously I've studied filmmaking too. But as an actor, I only appear in directors' films, much like a color appears in a painter's painting.
Absolutely.
So I can only be used as the artist sees me. So if I go off and make a film, and this is true for any actor or actress or anywhere in the world, if you have a successful career as an actor, it has an awful lot to do with you being lucky enough to work with competent directors. Why is Leonardo DiCaprio the most successful actor in the world today? Because he's never worked with a bad director, ever, in his entire career. Every director he's worked for has been overly competent, successful, so they know what they're doing. And so you don't sort of like end up making mistakes being in films that are bad, because you're the image that people are looking at. So they don't think that I'm appearing in someone's film. It's my film.
Exactly.
It isn't my film. I'm just a character, or I'm just an actor playing a character in somebody else's film, and it's up to them to make a competent film.
Talk about the character also, but right now we'll slip into a short break. Immediately after that, Jonathan Meyers is with us. We'll continue the conversation. And welcome back after the break here, as we're talking with Jonathan here. Jonathan, you're talking about before the break the characters you played. Which character you think and you played was quite challenging when you played in the past? What was, if you choose one of them,
I think Match Point was challenging only because I felt unprepared when I did it. I
Mhm.
wasn't very good at tennis. I wasn't a natural athlete. That's not what Woody was looking for. But also I was nervous working for Woody Allen. I was nervous. I was only 27 years old. Playing Elvis was challenging because every man in the world can do an Elvis impersonation, and it's so easy to fall into the trap of just doing a bad impersonation of someone rather than trying to get to what they were. So that was a risk that I took when I did that production. That could have gone very badly for everybody involved, and it didn't. I was lucky it didn't. But no, I've never played a role that was that I found sort of like hard to do. I've never done a comedy. I don't think I'd be a very good comedian. I'm just not sort of like funny on cue, you know, like comedians are. I just don't think I could do that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe I just haven't been challenged enough. You know, I haven't been lucky enough to have the opportunities to play challenging roles with incredibly good directors. You see, the thing with incredibly good directors is this.
That's true.
They don't take bad performance. They make you give a good performance. Bad directors are too concerned about just trying to make a competent film.
You said once in an interview that you would love to work with a director who actually in love with you.
Yeah.
As in character.
No, well, it's not only that. This comes from a conversation that I had with John Travolta in 2009. Exactly. And so he was very good friends with Marlon Brando, and he wanted Marlon to do a movie with him called A Civil Action. It was about a court case in the Midwest of the United States concerning contaminated water in the residents of this town. And he wanted Marlon Brando to play the judge. Now, they hadn't really been thinking of Marlon for the role. They had been thinking of Michael Gambon, who ended up playing the role. But what happened was John really wanted to work with Marlon and said, I really would like Marlon to do it. So they offered $2 million or something to Marlon to do it. But Marlon Brando, being Marlon Brando, said, I want 3, right? And so John went back to them and said, guys, can we just like make this happen, make this happen, make this happen? And John is a very lovely and very convincing man. And so he made it happen. So he goes to Marlon's house. He says, Marlon, great news. We're going to do the film together. I got you the $3 million. And Marlon said, John, they don't want me in this movie. You want me in this movie. Never do a movie for a director who is not in love with you for the role. If they're just taking you because the studio says that you have to be in it, they're not going to shoot you properly. They don't see you as the character. They don't see you as the role. And I've had this a couple of times. I've worked with directors who simply, they were just given me, you know, as part of the package. I hated doing those movies, obviously, because no one cared. You know, it's like you really have to, it's better for the director to really like you for the role than to just be like, whatever, it's just an actor.
And that's a win-win situation for both of them.
Well, yeah, but I've also done films, and I won't tell you which ones, but I've also done films in my time where I auditioned for one role and I got offered another, and I kind of wanted to be in the same space as the director. But that's never proved to be successful.
What does awards and recognition means to Jonathan?
Well, it's nice to get them because it makes people think you're more important than you really are. Just an actor, you know.
The race is going on right now to grab the awards.
Yes, of course it is, yeah. Yeah, funnily enough, I just came from London where we had a BAFTA screening of my film, The 12th Man, in the hope that maybe it'll get a Best Foreign Film nomination. We had some screenings for the Oscars and the Golden Globes last year, but it didn't go anywhere. The thing about sort of like the big award ceremonies, that really comes down to, now, you'll obviously get a gem.
That's true. Well, Jonathan, we've also seen another shades of you are a self-taught guitarist,
yes,
and singer, and you performed in the past also in some of the projects.
In some of the projects, but never.
Can we see that in future also?
I play the guitar a lot, but at the moment I just play it for my own pleasure. I play every day. But
your own pleasure, that means a stress buster, can we say that?
Yeah, it passes the stress. It you know, takes 3 or 4 hours. You know, I can play for 3 or 4 hours. Would I like to play some music in the future? I don't know. Yes, maybe when I'm older. and I don't have the stamina to run around the film set anymore. I could sit down and play music. But I've no intentions of being a rock and roll star. You know.
But you played rock star. You played rock star performance.
I played a few rock stars in my time, and I've had fun doing it. But I'm in my 40s now. A dad band, maybe.
40 is still young, it seems.
Well, you know, apparently it is. But you know, they say, you know, 40's the new 30, and 30's the new 20. But I don't know. I think 40's still 40, 50's still 50, and believe me. You can ask anyone, 60 is definitely still 60.
Well, you have a connection with the Indian cinema as well, because we have seen you in Bend It Like Beckham with Gurinder Chadda.
Yes.
Something tell us about it. How you experienced it? Because would you like to be a part of the Bollywood or any Indian project? That's a question I'm going to ask you next. But first of all, the experience about Bend It Like Beckham.
Oh yeah, Bend It Like Beckham I liked. You know, this was a small movie. In its origination, you know, with some wonderful actors, and Gurinder Chadda's a wonderful director. And when I originally read the script, I thought, I'm not really right for this. So I didn't think I wanted to do it. And then I called my brother, Ali, and he was in the Channel Islands at the time. And I talked to him on the phone, and I explained the synopsis of the script, and I read him a few scenes. He says, you've got to do it. He goes, I think it'll be a hit. He goes, it's funny, you've got to do something funny every so often, even if you're not the funny guy in it. So I went and did this movie. It didn't take very long to shoot. It shot for about 5 weeks in London. I had an incredibly pleasant time with the cast. Pamela Nagra was wonderful, and Keira Knightley, she was 16 years old. It was her first, one of her first productions. She was doing her A-level results or something at the same time, her examination. So, you know, this was a whole bunch of kids. And I was 23, 24 maybe at the time. And, you know, I didn't expect it to do as much as it did. It had luck, I suppose. Had a lot to do with it. But it's an incredibly charming film with incredibly charming performances. And it says a lot to the human spirit.
Does that mean that you're going to appear in any Indian project if you get a chance in future?
Yeah, well, I have worked also with Meera Nair when I did Vanity Fair. Meera Nair, who did Monsoon Wedding, which I really like.
Yes, well.
But yes, of course, I'd love to do a film in India. I'd love to do a film in India. I'm not quite sure I'd like to sing and dance. I'm not quite sure.
That's integral part of it.
That's an integral part of Bollywood, but not all Indian cinema.
Exactly.
My favorite Indian film is Satyajit Ray's The Music Room.
Oh.
But then that's a completely different element of how music is. But that's an incredibly poetic film. Incredibly poetic film. And I remember when I was making Velvet Goldmine when I was 19, I used to have Shekhar Kapoor to my apartment for dinner quite a lot, because we were both incredibly large fans of Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan. And he had been with Nusrat very shortly before Nusrat passed, because this was in 1998-99, and Nusrat had passed very, very recently. So I started having dinner with Shekhar in London. He was just about to shoot the movie Elizabeth, but I haven't seen Shekhar for many, many years.
So we can say that the musical chord may connect you to the Indian projects, if it is at all, because...
Yeah, well, you know, I'm sure I will make a movie in India. I just made a movie in Borneo. I can't see a reason why I wouldn't make a movie in India. I think there's a lot to be made here. A lot to be made here. Outside of Bollywood or Tollywood, you know, I mean, that's one element of cinema in the same way as superheroes are one element of American cinema.
I want to ask you this question. If you remember, when you talk about Bollywood, how do you look at it, basically, the Indian film industry and the way it hasn't grown? How do you look at it now?
Well, you see, the Indian film industry, I was trying to explain this to my wife, who didn't know very much about the Indian film industry and you know, and its genesis and how long it's been going on. And, you know, she's never seen Mr. India, she's never seen Mother India, she's never seen
oh my God,
Salam Bombay.
Yes.
I've seen Mother India, Salam Bombay, she's never seen any of the, you know, the Bandit Queen, she's never seen any of these movies. I have. So I have, apart from sort of like seeing Ashok as well, you know, I've seen some Bollywood films as well, even though Ashok I couldn't quite say it was a Bollywood film. It's more of an epic. But, so I had an idea of it, but you see, it's the biggest film industry in the world. There's 350 million people in the United States. The Indian industry is over 1 billion people, and that's just in the Indian subcontinent. Then you can go to Indonesia, and sell more. And then it's Kenya, Tanzania, Mauritania, wherever there's a large Indian population, Canada, United Kingdom. So the Indian movie population and the stars that arise from it, like, you know, Amitabh Bachchan that we saw the other night at the opening, and Shah Rukh Khan, these are, you know, a level of fame that's way, way, way beyond what you could encompass in the United States. Yes, of course, there's an enormous level of fame, but it doesn't have the same enigmatic, magical grandeur of being an enormously famous movie star in India. It's a very different thing here.
Absolutely.
It's a very different thing. I had somebody working with me, a security person from Indonesia, but he was working with me in Borneo. But he had worked for Shah Rukh Khan. And he said, it's incredible. You have people trying to put their hands through my legs just to touch, you know, so some of this energy. You see, I think what's understood, maybe not as much understood in the Western world, and if it is understood, it's not practiced as much, but the transfer of energy is everything here. See, this is what makes, why is one person a movie star and one person not a movie star? It's their ability to translate energy through celluloid. That's simple. That's what makes a successful actor and a not a successful actor. You can be gifted, talented, intelligent, beautiful, but if it doesn't work on camera, if the camera doesn't allow you to be able to translate it through celluloid, then nothing will happen. So it's just some people have this gift. You see, I said to my wife, you can't teach an actor to be an actor. You can only teach an actor to be a better actor. But they have to kind of be that anyway. It must be there, which is why so many kids who go to drama school end up disappointed in and not being actors, because it's a rare thing to be able to do that. You have to be slightly insane. In the nicest way, of course.
Well, this is the first time you have come to IFFI. You've
Yes.
been across the various film festivals across the world. How's the experience here? It's the first time you have come here, but how's the experience here in IFFI? And what are you looking forward now?
Well, I've had a really, really nice time here. I've only been here for a few days, but I went for a really nice dinner last night, and I enjoyed going to the opening ceremony. Remind me of the name of that wonderful musician.
Shankar Mahadevan.
Shankar Mahadevan. He was extraordinary, an extraordinary singer, an extraordinary performer. And I like that he sung some Qawwali music.
It's fusion music.
Yeah, it was wonderful. And I really liked seeing Isabelle Huppert get the Lifetime Achievement Award. She has been one of my favorite actresses for as long as I've been alive. But yeah, I've had a great experience here. Yeah, it's been incredibly nice. I have my wife here, my son, Wolf, is enjoying his time here. He loves traveling, of course. Yeah, but I haven't managed to take in any movies yet, although I did have a very brief conversation with Lynn Ramsey last night, who is another incredible director. I think in many ways Lynn Ramsey is certainly one of the best directors working in cinema today, but also probably the best female director in cinema today. But I don't like to say that either, and this is not out of wokeness. Do you know, people are talking about people being woke now. I'm not woke because I was never asleep, you know? But I think Lynn Ramsey is one of the most extraordinary directors. Her movie, You Were Never Really Here, is extraordinary. It's a masterpiece. I think people, it's on, from my point of view, it's on the same level as like Mean Streets. It's got that sort of like dark taxi driver quality to it, which I love. But I was talking to her last night, and she's been seeing many films every day, and she said there's some great talent, there's some wonderful talent here. But I think it can be exhausting seeing as many films.
Obviously. We talked about your career, we talked about the films. We want to know about Jonathan as a family person, because how Jonathan as a family man, because I've heard about a lot of time from you on a different forum.
Yeah.
The way you love your family, your wife, your son. But outside, the star, the glittering star, Jonathan, how is it at home?
Oh, it's at home. I'm never out of my pajamas. You know, I'm playing with my son all day. He wakes up with sword fighting is the first thing on his mind every morning. So we wake up and he takes taekwondo lessons. So he always wants to fight. Fighting is his big thing. But we have 5 acres, really separate in the mountains. I live with my wife, my son, grandma and grandpa live in the guest house, so we all live together. I think it's really important that he has his grandmother and grandfather there.
Absolutely.
I think it's a very important connection. My wife is American but from Vietnamese Chinese heritage, and grandma's Vietnamese, so my wife is that, my son is that mix. But I do like the Asian keeping family close, that sort of the circular feeling, you know. So grandma, grandpa live in the guest house. My wife, my son and I live in the big house, and then when my son grows up, we'll move into the guest house, he'll live in the big house, and we'll take care of his kids.
But with the hectic schedule, day and night, working also, do you really get a family time to spend with them, or quality time?
Yeah, because I don't, apart from playing the guitar, I don't really have social hobbies, I don't have like large groups of friends that I have to entertain. I'm not sort of enamored with any sports team that I have to follow. I don't play golf. I don't have fancy cars or private jets or anything like that to entertain my days with. I have my guitar and my son, my dog, and we have a little kitten. And my wife, and that's it. I have very, very simple things. I have books, very simple things. So I leave an awful lot of time for my son. Just me and my son, yeah.
Well, obviously, you are right now, we have seen the success you've got here, the awards you've got, a glittering star. But in case, if you're not in the entertainment world, what was the other choice you had? If suppose you've not an actor.
Oh, if I hadn't been an actor, I mean, I think I would have liked to have been something like an architect. I like architecture. But I think that's sort of like, I think I more like architecture than I like going about the business of solving the mathematical problems.
But the creativity is still there.
Of creating the thing. It's like, I was never very good at mathematics in school, and I've come to an understanding with mathematics that I think mathematics should grow up and solve its own problems. Because I can't do it. Maybe being a musician would have been another option. I don't know. I don't think I could have seen myself working at a desk job, a perfunctory desk job in a company. I don't think I would have enjoyed that as much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jonathan. Well,
it's been a great pleasure.
It's a great pleasure. It was Jonathan Meyers. We had talked about a lot of things, the movies, Bollywood, career and family. And of course, Jonathan, thank you very much for spending your time and talking to us. Thank you very much.
It's a great pleasure. Thank you very much for your hospitality. Thank you.